Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Uribe, and today I'm going to be giving a presentation on concerning world population and migration. This is for the Data Management Visualization Data 620 Spring 2017 term. My professor is Professor Prasanna Mehta with the University of Maryland University College. So the reason I'm doing this presentation is, in our news of late and our current political environment, immigration has been brought up quite a bit as a apparent issue. So I just wanted to examine the data to see if there was any merit to the claim of immigration being on the rise to certain parts of the world, primarily Europe and North America. And again, just looking at the data, and we'll see where it leads us. So we start here with the world population bar chart. It's over the last 23 years, from 1993 to 2016, and it's in thousands on the scale here. So, 5,500,000 on here is actually 5.5 billion if you do the math. The data for this presentation primarily came from the U.S. Census Bureau International Database, and I'll show you that later in the presentation. But they break down the statistical regions, not necessarily by continent, but for example, here you have Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, which is Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean islands. And then you got North America, which that would be the U.S., Canada, and Greenland. And then Oceania is Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands southeast of Asia. So looking at this bar chart, the significant thing that jumped out at me was the big increase in the African population, going from around 600 million to about 1.1 billion over this time frame, so almost doubled. Asia has significantly grown in population, but other regions of the world, have increased, but not on the significant scales of Asia and Africa. So we're going to continue on and see if there's any specifics that would explain why. Looking at life expectancy here, obviously there's a huge gap between the African life expectancy and the rest of the world, but all are steadily increasing except for North America, which is already high in the 80s, low 80s, has maintained that over this time frame. Looking at birth rate, kind of inverse of the life expectancy graph, but there's still a significant gap between the high birth rate in Africa and the birth rates for the rest of the world, which for the most part are steadily decreasing in Latin America, Asia, and Oceania, but and then you have the low birth rates in North America and Europe, which have maintained their levels over this time frame. And looking at death rate, for the most part, you have steady death rates for most of the world. No significant no significant increases or decreases, but there was a significant decrease in Africa. Their death rate has fallen significantly, and surprisingly enough, North America's death rate has increased to the point now where it's not a huge difference between the African and North American death rates. So I think this data clearly demonstrates why Africa's population is just pretty much blown up over this time frame. Life expectancy, although low, is increasing. High birth rate has maintained itself, and the death rate has fallen. Now, as far as the North American increase in death rate, their life expectancy has remained high. Low birth rate has remained that level. So I think this increase in death rate basically correlates to an aging population. A lot of baby boomers and older generations make up a significant portion of the North American population, and they're starting to age and pass on. So I think that explains this increase in death rate, especially when compared to the rest of the world. Finally, when looking at migration, you have a zero line here. Anything above would be an net increase in migration. Anything below would be a net loss. And consistently throughout this time frame, Oceania, Europe, and North America have an increase in net migration, while Africa, Asia, and Latin America have a net loss in migration. So it definitely supports the position that migration has been constant or consistent over a period of time, but it's definitely nothing new and not increasing of late for the most part. Finally, here's a slide showing the website where I got most of this data. And here's the actual website and how it looks and some of the search options. This concludes this presentation. Thank you for your time.